To the Village of Pewaukee Planning Commission. I ask that you please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Commissioner Joel Zappa.
Here.
Commissioner Cheryl Nance. Here. Commissioner Eric Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Ryan Lane.
Here.
Commissioner Jim Grabowski.
Here.
Trustee Craig Roberts.
Here.
President Jeff Knudsen.
Here. Okay, second, third, public hearings, we have none. Item 3 on tonight's agenda is citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to share their opinions with board members on any topic they choose. However, due to Wisconsin open meeting laws, the board is not able to answer questions or respond to your comments. All comments should be directed to the board. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers are asked to use the podium over here and state your name and address. And I ask that the audience please be generous to the people that are speaking. No boos, no hisses, no whatever. So with that, is there anyone here on, we'll start over here on this side that would like to make a comment at this time? Yes, sir. Oh yeah, one more thing. I am going to be holding everybody to 3 minutes. And I will tell you when you've got a minute left.
Tom Calder, 504 High Street, resident taxpayer of the Village of Pewaukee. Tonight you guys are going to be dealing with 2 issues in regards to multi-family housing. As a 30-year resident of this community, I have seen and heard from numerous citizens and taxpayers that have said, enough. We need to keep every zoning that we have on every single family property we have in the Village of Pewaukee. We continue to give them up for development, which goes into plex housing. The Riverside, River Hills property is on the agenda tonight for discussion. Great idea. That's been a hot topic in this community for the last 3 years. I can only say what's being proposed is better than what is there now and what was being proposed before. But I ask, as a citizen of this community, and I would hope for the rest of these citizens here this evening, that we want the best. And the best is single-family homes. I would ask that that be considered I've shown this before. At one time, that was laid out for 32 sites, 80 feet wide by 160 feet. My lot is 80 by 120. Beautiful single-family homes could be laid out on that piece of property. St. Mary's Queen of Apostles. I would ask that the Plan Commission please do not recommend a change to the land use plan that's being requested by the developer. We need single-family homes. We cannot give up any more single-family properties in this community. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the master plan that the village has. And that is certainly something that you can go back on when you say to the village board, we are not going to recommend a change to the land use plan. No to the rezone. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. We have plenty of multifamily housing in this community. We are the highest, if not the highest, in Waukesha County for multifamily plex housing. I would say enough is enough. For the church, they had a buyer for the church. They could sell lots on Quinlan. They could also sell the property they have immediately to the east of the church on Capitol Drive. I want to keep the church. It's got a long history in this community. We need single-family homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment on this side of the room? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Hi, Amy Stanlis, 414 Cheshire Lane. Back in the late 1990s, the future of the village's land availability was compromised by the incorporation of the city of Pewaukee, which permanently fixed the boundaries of the village and landlocked the village inside of the city. The village board was possibly overwhelmed or confused by political, financial pressures. Maybe the board simply didn't understand the repercussions of their inaction. The village was left with little land and an increased role in supporting 4 schools, a library, WCTC, and the lake, while paying higher taxes than city residents. We have one last large parcel of land left in the downtown village area. Don't make the mistake again. Don't yield to the pressures of developers, the Archdiocese, Queen of Apostles, and their congregation, most of whom don't even live near the affected parcel of land. Don't be fooled again. Good? This is our only chance to use this large parcel of land to define the characteristics of our downtown. Decisions this important do not belong in the hands of a developer who will build and walk away, money in their pockets, never owning the impact to our village. We need to take control. We live with the impact of development of this land. This is the only large piece of land left in downtown Pewaukee, and we need to get it right. It can be the last defining element in our village that attracts people to settle down here, support and invest in our schools, our parks, our lake, contribute to our community, pay taxes based on the value of their property indefinitely. Or it could be the last defining element that makes people decide to move on, live, contribute to another community. The decision to put a high-density senior living structure on this parcel is inharmonious to the adjoining neighborhood and village. We have a beautiful lake in the village, and we need to develop this valuable area of land to add to our village's charm and to use the lake draw to its fullest potential. There's no need to be pressured to react to a developer's plan. It's not the priest's place to decide what's best for the village. It's not the Archdiocese's position to make this choice for us. The village needs to stop now. Put this land into memorandum, take the time to carefully and thoughtfully plan, then implement the best and most harmonious and beneficial use of this land, and do it on the village's own terms and in its own time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on that side of the room? Yes, ma'am. Are you gonna read first? You gonna read first?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then press the end.
Okay.
Sandy Moncada, West 276, North 2177, Spring Creek Drive, Pewaukee. I am reading a letter from an old friend that used to live in the village, and I think that she deserves the respect, even though we've gone over this a lot of times. You've heard it a lot of times. For the love of St. Mary's, I've lived in northern Wisconsin for 35 years. Part of my heart has always remained in Pewaukee. My sisters graduated from Pewaukee High School. I graduated from there in 1967. I attended St. Mary's Catholic School for 4 years. My sisters were married at the church. I was married there in 1971. After the ceremony, I laid my bridal flowers on my mother's grave directly behind the church. My father's also buried there beside my mother. I've taken many walks through the cemetery, recognizing names of friends who have their resting place there. Whenever I visit Pewaukee, I am reminded of so many wonderful memories connected to St. Mary's Church and school. Please do not destroy an important landmark so loved by people near and far. Sincerely, Mary Bertram Copleen Holtz.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on this side of the room that would like to speak? Okay, is there anybody in the middle that would like to make a comment? Yes, sir. If you would like to, we could have people line up if you would prefer that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I've been a member of this
State your name
community.
and address for the record.
I'm Ron Weislow. I live off of Beaver Court here in Pewaukee. I've lived on Lori Lane for many years. I've been a member of this church at St. Mary's for probably over 40 years. I want you to understand something. We built a new church for St. Mary's. I was on the board of directors on that one to build that church. The church decided to build a new one on Capitol Drive and join the two churches, become one of Queen of Apostles. All I hear here is money, money, money about who gets this, who gets that, single family or whatever. This is a historic site, yes, but it was meant for Father Carl to build and have older residents have a place to go. If you ever hear of an angel coming down, it's Father Carl. He's coming down to tell you, folks, every one of you, what is being planned for that development right now, whether they make a profit or not, the church facade will stay, the cemetery will stay, the community will stay in a church environment the way it's always been, what, for how many years? Please think this over. It isn't about single family. It's about Pewaukee. And every one of you should realize that church has been there a long time, and we still own that church. When we decided to build, we decided that that property would be destroyed. People I've heard talk about, oh, the traffic, the ambulances, and all of this. What nonsense. You've had a school down there for how many years? And what about the traffic and all the church people? That was a very busy, busy place. So that's kind of strapped out. I want you all to take a little time and think of what the church is that's been in this community for hundreds of years. Think about it. I think you'll understand Father Carl standing here talking to us right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello. My name is Kathy Korn. I live in Sussex. And as you can see, I use a walker, okay? And my medical condition will be transitioning, shall we say, getting a little worse. And when I heard about this development, I'm excited about it. An adult place, living place that has different levels, and I'd still be in my overall community. I'm in Sussex, but that's what, 10 minutes from here? This is a wonderful place too, but I really appreciate what they want to be doing, the development that they want to put here, and I think it will definitely add to the grace of Pewaukee. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Kravchik. I live at W250N4962 William Drive. I live in Sussex. I belong to Queen of Apostles Church. 44 years ago, I was married at St. Mary's Church. We lived in the village of Pewaukee for 39 years after that. I am in favor of the Capri development because St. Mary's Catholic Church's legacy will be preserved. Capri has worked with historic engineering experts, architects, and the Archdiocese to develop a sensitive design that maintains the original features of the old church as they understand the importance of this to the community. Also, part of their design establishes a memorial garden at the cemetery. With their development, Capri will also generate a substantial amount of money in annual real estate tax payments to the village. I hope the village board will be in favor of this development. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Kathleen King. I live at 725 Glacier Road in the village of Pewaukee. I am here tonight to speak out against Capri Development's request to change the R5 zoning for St. Mary's property and adjoining properties to an IPS designation. The current R5 zoning, which is in place already, is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, which is all single-family homes in a quiet residential neighborhood. Capri's proposed development of 200 independent living and assisted living apartments, duplexes, and memory care buildings is not architecturally, aesthetically, or operationally harmonious with the surrounding development. Architecturally, the proposed Capri development will be 3 to 4 stories high, which is not similar in any way to the private homes in the area, which are 1 to 2 stories high. Aesthetically, the proposed Capri development will be a rude addition on the landscape, towering above all the homes in the neighborhood. Operationally, the proposed Capri development will not be able to operate similarly to the private homes in the area. There will be many employees driving to and from the site, multiple delivery vehicles coming and going on a daily basis to support the 200 plus living, assisted living and independent living apartments. There will be fire department, rescue squad, and police cars on site as a constant presence because we're dealing with an elderly population and that just goes with it. The impact on the groundwater, sewage disposal, noise level, and traffic would be significant, considering that at least 225 to 250 people would be living in the proposed development as compared to the single-family homes, which I have one family per building and 1 or 2 vehicles on the road every day. And harmoniously, the proposed Capri development is not in any way harmonious with the surrounding structures. Their design does not look compatible with the homes in the neighborhood, and the noise and high-volume traffic would be a constant nuisance. In addition, property values would decrease for the homes surrounding the St. Mary's property. The village does not need another senior living community when there are already 12 senior communities in the Pewaukee area. And in addition, the city of Pewaukee has very recently approved a 155-unit senior living complex at the intersection of Highway 164 and Highway M, so that's just 2 miles away. There's no need for any more senior apartments in this village. And in addition, the only way to access Capri's proposed development would require driving through surrounding residential neighborhood, which I see as a very big concern in terms of pedestrian safety. The proposed Capri development would negatively alter the village of Pewaukee and our way of life. Zoning regulations are in place to make certain that proposed development is compatible and harmonious with surrounding neighborhood. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Catherine Sabaki, 329 Evergreen Lane, Village of Pewaukee. I have some comments to make regarding the proposed open space in the Capri Senior Housing Plan. According to zoning regulations, section 40.108, open space means a natural or man-made open space area not occupied by any structures or impervious surfaces. And the purpose of having open space on the property is to allow for water absorption, thereby reducing water runoff, and also to provide an aesthetically pleasing landscape. Under Capri's plans, the major areas of open space behind the current church location would consist of the retention pond, and I'm fortunate that it would not be in my backyard, although it would be abutting several houses. The cemetery, which is not actually an open space, as it is a developed land use, and every gravestone could be considered an impervious surface. And then the wooded area on the northwest corner of the property, which, because it is a very dense natural growth area on steep slopes, is not even a visible open space beyond the outer edges of the trees. The development plan includes dense packed buildings, roadways, patios, and other impervious surfaces with little more than patches of grass scattered among all the development. Many healthy mature trees would be cut down to make room for the development, and without them, not only would the neighborhood lose the aesthetic value of the trees, but the existing stormwater runoff problems in this area would be greatly exacerbated. Aesthetically, this would not be the type of open, attractive area that the village prides itself on. These so-called open areas would not provide meaningful open space to the property. They would not be accessible to the public or provide the breathing space that is so vital to every neighborhood. In this respect, Capri would be especially inharmonious with the surrounding single-family residential neighborhood that does take pride in our open space. Today, the Wisconsin Department of Administration population estimates came out for 2019. The village of Pewaukee's population has dropped about 60 people from last year and about 240 people from the 2010 census. This is Waukesha County, the strongest growing county in the state, and we are among very few communities that are actually losing population. The city of Pewaukee has grown substantially. So what we need are the working age residents and single family homes to support our economic development in this community, to work the jobs in this area. And that's the type of development that the village needs and should support and should expect to see at this location. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bill Kuharski, Kucharski. I live at 324 High Street in the village of Pewaukee. Just preface these words are my own, not professionally prepared marketing. I oppose any amendments or changes to the land use plan or zoning regarding the parcels at and near 449 West Wisconsin Avenue that are being requested by Tarantino and Company. During these citizen comments, we are required to state our name and address. I ask that all of you pay attention to where the people speaking live. Many of the people that are in favor of this monstrosity of a development are not residents of the village of Pewaukee. Rather, they're from Sussex, Hartland, Oconomowoc, and the city of Pewaukee. Most of the people speaking against the development have a vested interest because they live in and pay taxes to the village of Pewaukee. In the agenda packet, it is stated that the traffic study has been seasonally adjusted. I'm not sure what table in the back of a book somewhere or simulation software was used, but can it actually be proven that the seasonal adjustment accurately portrays the summertime traffic that clogs up the streets around the downtown and adjacent areas? There are other comments about the new trip generations that'll happen, but that appears to be based solely on the residents of the proposed development. If there are to be 22 to 24 employees during the peak day shift, that adds another 44 to 48 daily trips. It also does not include people coming to visit their families that would live there. I experience these roads surrounding the area in question every single day, and it does not take an expert to tell you that they cannot handle any increased traffic. In fact, it was deemed necessary to reduce the speed limit by the beach from 25 miles an hour to 15 miles an hour. Why would we need to do that if there isn't already a problem with traffic? Also in the agenda packet, it shows that 3 out of 4 sewer pipes are undersized for this size of a development. This doesn't even include the flow capacity of what we send towards Brookfield or the increased cost for them to handle it. When is that cost increase going to be sprung on us, the residents of the village of Pewaukee? These sewer and water studies assume that everything is working properly, but there are currently issues with the well at High Street and Capitol Drive, and have been for a while. And I believe the lift station on Glacier Drive is in a degraded state. We have paid a lot of money to have a master plan developed. It is your duty as the Plan Commission to see that it is followed. It is not your duty to make amendments to help Queen of Apostles get out of the financial trouble that they got themselves into. They had had a number of offers for this land that would have preserved a historic church, respected the loved ones of the people buried in the cemetery, and added more single-family homes to a wonderful neighborhood. But they are being greedy and are willing to irreversibly change the village of Pewaukee and have signed on with Capri to do just that. The village of Pewaukee does not need more multiplex housing. We need more single-family homes. As concerned citizens, we've done the research and presented you with a plethora of legal reasons to deny any changes or amendments that would allow this development from proceeding. It is now time for you to use these reasons in our own village ordinances and land use plan to do what is in the best interest of the residents of the village of Pewaukee. This, to state it simply, is to deny any of these requests presented by Tarantino and Company or anyone representing them. The residents of the village of Pewaukee do not want this development.
Sir,
The village
2
does,
minutes.
what?
Your time.
2 seconds. The village does not need this development, and now is the time to stop it from proceeding any further.
Bonnie Bluth, 427 High Street. I have a real vested interest in tonight since my property abuts that area that's up for rezoning. I spent Monday and Tuesday delivering flyers about tonight's meeting to the people who live on High Street, Cheshire Court, and Quinlan Drive. The 2 major concerns that were voiced by the residents I spoke to were 1, the impact on traffic flow and increase in volume, and 2, concerns about how 3 and 4 family-story buildings fit into a single-family neighborhood. This is not keeping with the history or the culture of the area. The proposed plan violates several of our village ordinances, and after reading the R.A. Smith letters concerning the traffic study and the water sewage impacts, I would say there are several outstanding issues. I took this quote from an article in the Nation magazine on climate change, but I think it fits our situation perfectly. And the quote is, "It is, of course, morally perverse to frame this debate in cold economic terms. We are talking about the character, history, and charm of the village of Pewaukee. Please listen when we say we do not want a huge multi-story development erected on the St. Mary's land. Respectfully, Bonnie Bluth."
Charlie Sean, 116 Highland Avenue, Village of Pewaukee. My parents moved out here in 1943, and St. Mary's was their church from day one, and it was till the day they passed away. They're buried right now in St. Mary's Cemetery. And as we talk about changing this site and losing their church, before you do that, I would ask you all to go and walk in that cemetery and look at those gravestones with the dates and the names that are there. Many of those families are still here. These were the people that built this church. They're up there in the cemetery. They built a house of worship that they wanted to last forever. They all do. I don't care what church you're building, it could be the new Queen of Apostles, they want it there forever. We had an opportunity, or there is an opportunity, for somebody that wants that to continue as a house of worship. They've been good stewards of it, and they should be offered the opportunity to keep that church as it was meant. It's hard to stand in that cemetery and tell the people that are buried there that this structure means nothing to our community. And that's what you're saying. That building was there. There's a photo. Everybody's probably seen it. That's looking from above my house where it's nothing but a farm field. And you look across the lake. That's all there is are farm fields. It's over 150 years. And if it was no way to avoid it, it'd be one thing, but there's ways to avoid it. And I think you need to do that. You also need to remember that you are either elected or appointed to this board and this commission by the people in this community. You have a petition with thousands of signatures on it of people that don't want to lose a church. It's your responsibility to honor the wishes of our community. It's our community. It's not just one or two people. There's thousands that have supported saving that church. I understand the issues. I understand that Queen of Apostles is in financial straits. They certainly wouldn't have made a deal that is turning some of their parishioners against them if they weren't. They're desperate. And I think it's just a shame that we haven't started working on this project from day one. Everybody knew they had to sell the property. Where were we in that process? We should have been there. We should have been talking to them. There's opportunities for us. The building, the church, there's somebody that wants to buy it. We can look to, from my perspective, the village should buy the property. Turn it into parkland. Sell it for multi-family or single-family homes. Use the major building for a community center, which we don't have, and we need.